What's up, my witches, wizards, and I guess hi to you muggles as well. Welcome to a new Harry Potter video. This is 100 things that happened in both the movies and the books, but happened differently. Now, I have another video, 100 things that happened in the books but not in the movies, so if you want, go check that out. This will be part one. There will be 2 parts just because it's just so much stuff. It's just really long, so I'm going to break it up into 2 separate videos just to so it's not that long. But yeah. So just like I just want to say, this is not every single thing that is different between the two. This is just 100 things. As I was reading the books, watching the movies, kind of just made a list in my phone about 100 things. So yeah, let's get into it. The twins that Harry and Ron take to the U-Ball in Goblet of Fire, in the books, one's in Gryffindor, one's in Ravenclaw. In the movies, both of them are in Gryffindor. In the Goblet of Fire, when we meet the students from Beauxbatons and Durmstrang, in the books, both school brings students of both genders. In the movies, it's only boys from Durmstrang and only girls from Beauxbatons. In Goblet of Fire, when Fred and George cross the age line to try and put their names into the Goblet of Fire, in the books they get their beards and they laugh about it. In the movies, they get their beards and they fight over it. In the Goblet of Fire, in the movies, Barty Crouch says, "You, for you are under the age of 17, you must not compete." But in the books, it is Dumbledore that says about the age restriction. In the Goblet of Fire, when the foreign students arrive at Hogwarts, in the movies they arrive right away at the beginning of term. In the book, they arrive in October. In the Goblet of Fire, at the Quidditch World Cup, when the Dark Mark is cast in the sky, and they go to the scene of it, in the movie, you see that it's Barty Crouch. Well, you don't know it's Barty Crouch Jr. yet, but you see Barty Crouch Jr. cast it. In the book, Winky is discovered at the scene, holding Harry's wand, which is the wand that casted the Dark Mark. In the Deathly Hallows, in the movie, Ollivander knows about the Deathly Hallows and kind of explains them to Harry. When Harry says, "Do you know about the Deathly Hallows?" In the book, he just knows about the Elder Wand. When Harry says, "Do you know about the Deathly Hallows?" he's like, "What?" In the Deathly Hallows, at the end, after Voldemort kills Harry, and Narcissa Malfoy goes over to Harry and asks, "Is Draco alive?" In the book, Harry whispers, "Yes." In the movie, he nods his head. Subtle difference, but still difference. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, where Harry is on the night bus, in the book, when they ask him what his name is, he says his name is Neville Longbottom, so they don't realize that it's Harry Potter. In the movie, he kind of just keeps silent, doesn't say what his name is. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, in the movie, Harry first hears about Sirius Black from on the night bus reading Stan's paper. He sees Sirius on the front of the paper. In the book, he actually hears about Sirius Black on the Muggle News. One of the biggest scenes that are different between book and movie is, "Did you put your name in that goblet?" In the book, Dumbledore calmly asks Harry, "Harry, did you put your name in that goblet?" In the movie, he just runs down, "Harry, did you put your name in that goblet?" In The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry sees the Grim. In the books, he sees it in the Quidditch stands during the match. Like in the stands, sitting in the stands. In the movies, he sees it in the clouds. So kind of like the thunder hits, and or the lightning strikes, and you see the Grim illuminated in the clouds. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, where Harry first sneaks into Honeydukes using the Marauder's map that the twins give him, in the movie, he kind of comes up through the cellar without his invisibility cloak. In the book, though, he has his invisibility cloak on. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry goes to mess with Draco while he has his cloak on at Hogsmeade, in the book, it's Ron by himself that Draco's kind of bullying. In the movie, it's Ron and Hermione that are there. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Snape actually discovers that Harry has the Marauder's map and he tries to see what that parchment is, in the movies, it's as Harry's walking around at night following when the map says Peter Pettigrew. He's walking around trying to figure out what's going on in the halls, and Snape catches him and says, "Turn out your pockets." In the book, it's after Harry is seen, when Draco sees Harry's head, after Harry's throwing snowballs at him, Draco tells Snape that he saw Harry's head, and Snape kind of interrogates Harry about that. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Lupin discovers that Harry has a Marauder's map, in the movie he says he knew the Marauders. In the book he kind of hints, he's like, "I kind of knew them." In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Trelawney makes her prediction to Harry, it is at different times. In the book, It's during Harry's divination final, when they're alone in the tower, when Harry is doing his final. After the end of it, she goes into the trance and gives him the prophecy. In the movie, Hermione storms out of the classroom, and she knocks the crystal ball out down the stairs, and Harry goes to bring it back after class, and that's when she makes the prophecy. The Firebolt. In the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry is given the Firebolt, which we find out later is sent by Sirius. In the movie, Harry gets the Firebolt at the very end of the movie, and then the last scene is him flying off with it. In the book, he gets it during Christmas time, and then there's a whole thing about how Hermione thinks it might be cursed, and this, and yeah, it's crazy. But just when he gets the Firebolt is different between movie and book. The prophecies are different. The prophecy that is stated in the movie and the prophecy stated in the book are different. They're different. Same, point A to point B is still the same, but the wording on it is different. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry falls off his broom after the Dementors come onto the Quidditch course, and he falls off and he wakes up in the hospital, in the book it is Ron, Hermione, and the Gryffindor team. In the movie, it's Ron, Hermione, the Gryffindor team, and then some random girl that no one knows who she is. She's just kind of standing there. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, how they actually get in to the Whomping Willow is different. In the book, Crookshanks walks up, hits a little knob, the tree freezes, and they all enter the roots of the tree. In the movie, Harry and Hermione actually kind of fight their way in to the opening. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, inside the Shrieking Shack, when Severus Snape actually makes his appearance, that he's there under Harry's invisibility cloak, he gets knocked out. In the book, it's from Harry, Ron, and Hermione all hitting him at the same time with the same spell, which kind of forces him to get knocked out. In the movie, just Harry uses a spell on him that knocks him out. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, inside the Shrieking Shack, in the book, Severus Snape is actually sitting there for a little while underneath Harry's invisibility cloak, listening into their conversation, and then he reveals himself and tries to turn Sirius in. In the movie, he kind of runs up and then right away uses Expelliarmus. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when they're leaving the Shrieking Shack and go through the Whomping Willow, in the book, they actually take Snape, who is unconscious, with them. They put a hovering charm on his body, and they kind of bring him out with him. In the movies, they just leave him there. In The Goblet of Fire, when Harry actually goes into the Pensieve and he in Dumbledore's office, and he sees the court case where Karkaroff is actually on a trial, in the books, it's a few different court cases. I think it's 2, if I remember correctly, where he kind of says, "Oh, hey, I have names," and he comes back and he gives up Barty Crouch Jr. And then we actually see the trial of Barty Crouch Jr. with Bellatrix about the torturing of Neville's parents. In the movie, it's all one court case. The first time we meet Bellatrix is different. The first time we meet Bellatrix is technically in The Goblet of Fire during the court case in the Pensieve in the book. And in the movies, we meet Bellatrix for the first time when she breaks out of Azkaban. In The Half-Blood Prince, the beginning of the book and movie are different but similar. In the book, we see a scene where Fudge goes to the Muggle Prime Minister. He kind of explains all this stuff that's been happening. They kind of talk, and he kind of says, "Oh, this is what's going on in the Wizarding World. There's a bridge that was the bridge that was destroyed that you thought was because of bad engineering was actually because of wizards. That the giant storm was actually because of wizards." But in the movie, we actually see these events happening. In The Goblet of Fire, in the second task on the lake, in the movies, Harry can talk. Not much, but he can talk. He can say, "But she's my friend too," and he can say the spell out loud. In the book, it's just bubbles that come out of his mouth when he's trying to speak. In the Chamber of Secrets, when Harry uses Floo powder for the first time, and both times in the book and the movie, he ends up in Knockturn Alley inside Borgin and Burke's. In the movie, he kind of just, gets up, he's confused, walks out, sees Hagrid. In the books, he comes out of the fire pit and sees Draco and his father in there, and he hides and kind of eavesdrops on their conversation. In The Goblet of Fire, when Draco becomes a ferret, in the movies, it's outside in one of the courtyards. In the books, it's inside in the entrance hall. In the Chamber of Secrets, they get Professor Binns to tell them about the Chamber of Secrets history. In the movie, they get Professor McGonagall to explain about the Chamber of Secrets. In The Goblet of Fire, in the second task, when Harry's swimming in the lake with his gillyweed. Moaning Myrtle is there in the book, kind of like floating around talking to Harry. In the movie, she is not there. In the Goblet of Fire, when Harry and Voldemort have their duel, and the ghost of Voldemort's victims start to come out of Voldemort's wand, Bertha Jorkins is actually there, who she is left out of the movies, but in the book she was a ministry worker who went missing, and if we find out later that Voldemort killed her. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, when Remus Lupin is teaching the students about bug arts, in the book he takes them into the teacher's lounge where a bug art appeared and he had them save it for his class. In the movie they just do it in the classroom. In The Goblet of Fire, after Cedric dies, rest in peace, and Harry brings back his body, in the movie, Amos Diggory, his father, runs over to the body while Harry is there, and we see him screaming. Then Moody, or Barty Crouch Jr., takes Harry away. In the book, Harry is taken away from the body before Amos Diggory gets there. In The Goblet of Fire, Harry mentions the graveyard right away in the book. In the movie, he doesn't mention it, and that's actually how when Moody, Barty Crouch Jr., mentions the graveyard, that's when Harry's kind of like, wait a minute, something's wrong. I didn't say anything about a graveyard. I'm on to you. In The Goblet of Fire, Peter Pettigrew in the book gently places Voldemort into the cauldron. In the movie, he just plops him in there. I was kind of like, what? The start of the second task. Now, in the book, it takes place on the side of the lake, like kind of like the beach area. Like they start in, like at the lakeside. In the movie, they start off on the stands in the middle of the lake, and they just jump right into the lake. In The Order of the Phoenix, when Harry and Sirius first reunite, in the movie they hug. It's like special because they haven't seen each other since The Prisoner of Azkaban. But in the book world, they've seen each other during Goblet of Fire. Harry and Ron and Hermione sneak out into Hogsmeade and they meet up with Sirius where he's hiding out there. So, and it's not as nice of a greeting in the book. It's not as heartfelt, In the movie they hug it out. In the book it's Sirius is kind of yelling at the portrait of his mother when they first reunite. In The Order of the Phoenix, Mad-Eye Moody gives Harry the photo of the original members of the Order of the Phoenix, kind of like, hey, look what I found. In the movie, it's Sirius that gives it to him. When Sirius goes with them to the train station, in the book he stays in his dog form the whole time. In the movie, him and Harry go into a private room and he goes into the human form. At the Quidditch World Cup, in the book, Harry is rooting for Ireland. In the movie, he is rooting for Bulgaria. At the Quidditch World Cup, in the book, Ludo Bagman introduces the match. In the movie, it is Cornelius Fudge. When Harry finds Barty Crouch's dead body, in the books, Barty Crouch has been missing for a while. In the movie, they kind of don't really mention that. He kind of just turns up dead. After Draco kind of finds Harry hiding in the train, and he does a Petrificus Totalis and stomps Harry's nose in the book, it's Tonks that finds Harry. In the movie, it's Luna that finds Harry on the train. At the end of the Half-Blood Prince in the Astronomy Tower, when you know what happens. In the book, Harry is frozen by a spell that Dumbledore casts on him, so he cannot move underneath his invisibility cloak. He is standing there frozen, unable to do anything as the whole scene happens. In the movie, he is on his way down to go find Snape when Draco comes up, so he's kind of just standing there watching. He's not frozen, he's under his cloak, he's just standing there watching, not expecting what happens to happen. Now, in the movie, at the end of Half-Blood Prince, when Harry and Dumbledore go to find the Horcrux, in the movie, Dumbledore apparates right out of Hogwarts, saying that there's perks to being the headmaster, basically, and he lifts the enchantments. They apparate directly out from Hogwarts and directly back in. In the book, they go into Hogsmeade, and they apparate out of Hogsmeade and then back into Hogsmeade as well. In the Deathly Hallows, when Harry goes into the woods to kind of surrender himself to Lord Voldy, in the books he's under his cloak, and he just tells Neville to kill the snake, but he doesn't really talk to anyone else, doesn't tell anyone where he's going, he kind of just goes off by himself. In the movie, he runs into Ron and Hermione, and they kind of have a little understanding, and then he goes off into the forest. Neville! In Deathly Hallows, in the book, Neville's badass scene with the snake is badass. The Sorting Hat's on fire. He pulls out the sword. He slices the head off. The crowd goes wild. In the movie, it still happens, but Neville pulls out the sword, and then he goes for the snake, then he gets blasted back, then later he wakes up and slices the snake out. So I think it's more badass in the book, where Neville just... When Harry goes to fight Lord Voldy. Fun fact, in my notes, I call him, every time I write Voldemort, it's actually Voldy in my notes. Just a fun fact. So yeah, when Harry and Voldy have their final duel, in the book, it's this epic scene. Harry pulls off the invisibility cloak. Everyone's watching him. They're circling. And he's like, this is between me and you, Tom. No one interfere. And it's this whole thing. Everyone's watching. They circle each other. Harry explains why the Elder Wand won't work for him and how he's the true master. Boom. In the movie, it's kind of a more solitude. You know, it's just Harry and Voldemort by themselves. They cast their spells. Harry wins in the end. But there's... it's just the scenery and the setting and how everything takes place between the final duel is different.